Welcome to session 4 of our relationship series. We've introduced you to this relationship attachment model and been really just spending time looking at the details of each of the major connections in your relationship. Basically, a relationship is a connection, but this model has helped us to define the specific ways that your relationship bonds you together, staying in the know. And you remember we gave you those 3 laws? The first one was, life is just going to mess you up. The normal things of life are going to start to impact how you stay in the know, so that sometimes you'll feel a little bit out of touch with each other and you'll have to sit down and bring it back up. Or maybe something influences that attitude of trust, that trust picture, if you remember we were talking about that. We're going to talk about reliance in this session and how important that is. But each one of these is something that you have to actively run in your relationship. Running a relationship means that you manage and run and increase the strength of these bonds of your relationship.
So the first major bond in your relationship is how you stay in the know with open communication and the 6 skills for effective communication. The second major bond was trust, and this turned our attention to what we call the marriage relationship within, so how you think about your partner, what you focus on, your attitude towards your partner. So trust develops from the qualities of your partner you choose to bring to the forefront. What you focus on can radically change your opinion and overall feelings of trust in your partner.
Now, with that being said, there's this old saying, trust is earned. So the proving ground of trust is really this third dynamic of reliance, how you take care of meeting each other's needs. So we're going to kind of hammer out exactly what we mean about rely.
Yeah, when you look up rely in the dictionary, you get definitions that seem synonymous with trust. But we're narrowing our definition of trust to that feeling of confidence that comes from what you think of your partner, while rely is that feeling of fulfillment that comes from what you do for your partner, how you meet their needs and how they meet your needs. Rely is trust in action.
There's a really cool verse about the excellent woman in Proverbs chapter 31. And it says, an excellent wife who can find, for her worth is far above jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her. And that thing of trust, there's another translation that says, her husband has full confidence. I think that's what we're talking about. He has this trust belief in her. He fully is confident. It gives him a feeling of security and safety with her. You say, hey, what do you think of your wife, Guy? And he says, man, she is an excellent wife. He has this belief in her. But then that proverb goes on and it says, she does him good and never harm. And that's the reliability, the action of trust. She's always acting out or doing those good things that help to fulfill that image of trust that he has in his mind of her.
Yeah, I mean, in a healthy relationship, 2 partners can rely or depend on each other. You say, well, for what? Well, lots of things, from the mundane tasks of life to the deeply meaningful love, needs, and wants of each partner. Reliance says, I am there for you. I will take care of you. You can depend on me. I will not let you down.
So we're going to look at 2 sides of reliance. The first is the qualities of a reliable partner. You could almost say reliance in that sense is being trustworthy, meaning you're acting in a way to produce that feeling of trust in your partner. So what are the qualities of being a reliable partner? The second thing that we're going to focus on is what we'll call the actions of a reliable partner. So let's start with qualities. What does it really take for somebody to be reliable? I think that we can put it in a little acronym and say, reliable partners care, C-A-R-E.
Yeah, and so the C in care stands for consistent. In many ways, being consistent is synonymous with being reliable. The A in care stands for available. Does your spouse feel like you are there for me? That you're available for them?
That's really good, because you got to be consistent about good things. So be consistent about being available, and the R is be consistent about being responsive. This is one step beyond being available. It has to do with saying, I have a positive attitude of willingness to get involved. I'm here, just tell me what to do. And then One step beyond that is to be consistent about being engaged. I want to take some initiation. Let me do this for you. You don't have to just always ask me. I don't have to always be responding. I'm identifying what is needed and doing something about it.
Yeah, my husband is really good at this, so I want to give him some credit. You know, we have 2 young kids. We have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, so we really are just kind of in those trenches of parenting right now. And a lot of my needs revolve around, you know, help me get stuff done and just let me be alone because I need a little bit of time to myself. So my husband, Chad, works pretty long hours. He's usually out the door by 6 and then comes home around 6. And I know he's just incredibly tired, but when he walks in the door, he jumps right into our world. And I'm sure he'd love that kind of time to decompress and have a minute to himself, but he knows I've been with the kids all day, so he just takes them off my hands right when he comes home. So I never had to ask him to do this. He recognized my need and he initiated.
And he's so consistent with it.
Yes, every day.
Very predictable. You know, these qualities of reliability are essential for creating a fair and supportive division of responsibilities in your home and in your relationship. Now, if you cultivate these 4 qualities of being reliable, the action of reliability actually moves you closer to meeting the most meaningful and significant love needs and wants of your spouse.
So what makes my husband feel really loved is when I take responsibilities off his plate and get my hands a little dirty, like for say, weed the garden. But for me, I really need deep and genuine compliments that make me feel seen by him and really known. So here's what makes this challenging. Even if you're one of the rare people who married someone who has the same needs as you, odds are they still want their needs expressed in different ways. We all are just so different.
For some reason, I just require a lot of sleep and he doesn't. And so sometimes if we have free time and I'm like, oh, a nap sounds really great right now. He's like, no, I want to go outside. I'm like, oh, but I'm tired.
She likes for me to make sure that I notice and tell her, like, I noticed you vacuumed upstairs, or I noticed you cleaned the bathroom. And so she needs that kind of stuff versus me. I need affirmation from her, like, what a great job you did fixing something.
I need someone to listen, and he doesn't. He needs more physical touch than I do.
I like to have my alone time where I like to just kind of focus on things of my interest. And for Ashlyn, she doesn't normally have that much alone time. So she's working 2 jobs right now. And every second that she gets away from that, she likes to spend it with me.
Tori really thrives by being built into and being affirmed, and that's not a natural thing for me. I've always seen myself as a leader, but I'm more of a lead by example. I am not a big fan of coaching up.
I don't like to let a conflict linger, so I want resolution. I want it done, and I like to make sure that we say I'm sorry or something like that. And she's more of a, I'm just done with it.
It'll fix itself.
Yeah. So,
Go to bed, wake up tomorrow, it'll be good.
So that's why we're totally qualified to be in this video.
You know, we are so different.
Yeah, and the challenge is to not let those differences frustrate us, but to appreciate your spouse's unique needs and ultimately find meaningful ways to meet them.
And to successfully meet those needs and wants of your spouse, you really need to become the connoisseur of your partner.
Yeah, and a connoisseur is an expert, like an expert of fine wine. They know everything there is to know about wine. They can just, take a sniff and they can tell you how old the wine is, what vineyard the grapes were grown in, who manufactured the wine. But a connoisseur is not just an expert, they love the wine. So you need to be an expert on what meets the needs of your spouse, and you need to love it.
Jesus worded it as we know to be the golden rule. In the Gospels, Jesus said, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you." And what this really means in marriage is to treat your spouse with the same thoughtfulness, personal attention, and care that you'd like them to show you. However, some have mistaken the golden rule to be, Go do for your other as you would like that person to do for you.
Yeah, and there are countless books written about the importance of stepping out of your own comfort zone of loving and meeting the unique needs of your partner as your partner desires them to be met. Even the scriptures written 2,000 years ago emphasize that husbands should make their wives feel loved, while the emphasis for wives is to make their husbands feel respected. And still today, that captures a real common difference in the meaningful needs between many men and women.
So we're going to provide you a jump start on this, a top 10 list of relationship activities that contribute to a close relationship and how you meet each other's needs. But then we really want each of you to make your own top 10 list and give it to your spouse so that they can better become a connoisseur of you. And if you want to have a little fun with this, try to come up with what you believe is your partner's top 10 list and then give it to them and see how accurate it is. But you're not allowed to get defensive if they make some corrections. And please, when you make those corrections, be gracious.
But listen, the bonds of your relationship continue to grow and rebound as you stay in the know. Keep refreshing your trust picture and practice being the connoisseur of your partner, actively showing those 4 aspects of care. Are you consistent? Are you available? Are you responsive and engaged? And while continuing to meet the most meaningful love needs of your spouse.
Now, before we conclude, I want to go back to our first session and just put all of this together with those 3 laws of relationships and then provide some steps for how you can have a huddle together in your relationship. If you remember, the first law of your relationship was called the law of diminishing returns. It just said that relationships have an insatiable appetite. So even after you have a full day of good times together, it won't be long before something more is wanted. And by the way, life has a way of draining and unbalancing your relationship. This is just normal.
So law number 2 was the law of slow leaks. And this says that the danger is not becoming unbalanced, but staying unbalanced. So you may do a few of the activities on that top 10 list, but you can hardly do all of them regularly. And before you know it, you're in a rut of only taking care of about 3 of the 10. This is okay for a while, but it begins to leak the vitality of your relationship and create vulnerabilities.
So the third law of your relationship says you have to have frequent realignments. You need to have a plan first for identifying where you are a little out of balance, what you have not been able to get to or what has been drained, what are those just can't get to areas of your relationship, and to take active steps to rebalance those imbalances.
Yeah, and this is what your huddle is all about. So a huddle is only around 20 minutes, and it's more like a planning meeting than it is fixing anything. So it is easy because it just really follows right through the RAM. So we're going to briefly go through each step of your huddle.
Yeah, step 1 of a huddle, we're going to call catch up. So catch up on your busy lives. This really applies the know. Are there areas that need to be talked about that have kind of like slipped through the cracks? Are you keeping your regular talk times?
Yeah, so if there's something quick to talk through, then you can do it right in the huddle. But most times you'll need to just identify topics you need to talk about and then set another time to do that.
The second step we'll call patch up. Now this addresses the important bond of your trust. Are there conflicts, misunderstandings? Do you need to patch up anything? Even if they were already resolved, a lot of times it's just good to reaffirm your understanding, to say, I'm sorry again, and to just assure each other that you are forgiven and moved on.
Yeah, and because the trust has to do with what you think of your partner, what you focus on, your attitude towards your partner, you should express what you appreciate about your partner and what they have been doing since the last huddle.
That's a great point.
And then say it to their face. This is how you have blessed me. It's so good to hear these things frequently.
So the first 2 steps kind of look back on your relationship to see how you have been doing, while these next steps look forward. So the third step of the huddle we'll call dream up. And it looks into the ways that you rely on each other for working together, meeting each other's real needs and wants, how to be a connoisseur, as we said. We provided a top 10 list, encouraged you to make your own top 10 list and to use those in your huddle to review what you've been doing well and what you want to do that maybe you haven't had time to do or opportunity. Or maybe there's been things that you have been doing but you just want more of. So dream up some things to do together to meet each other's needs and wants and interests.
The fourth step of your huddle is called backup, and it looks at your calendars. What things are coming up, and how can you best support each other through those things? It is the strengthening the practical side of your commitment. And finally, the fifth step of a huddle is called build up. And this has you think specifically about your physical relationship. How are you showing your love and affection, and how are you doing in your sexual intimacy? Even though some of this was talked through in Dream Up, your physical and sexual closeness is so very important, and it's good to really be comfortable talking openly about this area of your relationship.
Build up also means that before you end a huddle, you express your love and words and an affection. You give a hug, something a little longer than 2 seconds, maybe a kiss, something that seals your bond, because we want your huddles to be positive. If your huddle goes too long, or if it turns negative, you're not going to keep having huddles. So because you never achieve a perfect, lasting balance, a balance of staying in the know or meeting each other's needs or having a good attitude or really of any of these areas, because of that, your approach to every huddle should be with the expectation something is not being done. There's something missing, something is lacking. This will help to lower your defensiveness. It will help to normalize something more is needed. We're having a planning meeting to determine it, see it, and build up our relationship.
I mean, yeah, this is so often a trigger for arguments and hurt feelings. You know, I thought you were happy with what I did for you. I guess I'm not doing a good job. So if you have this expectation that something is always going to be a little bit missing, then it can help to really diffuse some of those arguments.
Absolutely. Anybody that's like sailed a boat and trimmed the sails, or an airplane, we have a good friend that flies planes and he talks about trimming his plane, or just when you're driving your car, you know that when you steer, making small adjustments and realignments keeps you on course. Your relationship huddle is that planning time for making those small adjustments. And it will keep the bonds of your relationship strong while greatly impacting the trajectory of your relationship over time.